Here we go. So welcome to Close It. December 3rd, we are honored to have Chancellor Lee Lambert, who is also a lawyer by profession, here with us from Pima Community College. I had the opportunity to meet Lee, gosh, I feel like it's been longer than about 3 years, but I think it was 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And have been so impressed with the work of Pima Community College, and not just as a college, but as an entire community. And obviously your vision and your leadership, Lee, on taking risks and the many things you've done throughout your career, both in Seattle and at Pima. So welcome. We're really honored to have you, and we will be sharing this with the broader community as well. So thank you.
Well, thank you, and good afternoon, everybody. It's a pleasure to be able to join the Close It community. I am now going to pull up my, PowerPoint. There we go. Hopefully everyone can see that. We're good?
Yes, we're good. Got it.
So I thought I'd first start out with a story and then talk about what I'm going to explore. So can you imagine one day you arrive in your office and you're getting ready to start your day, you have your calendar of meetings, etc., and your assistant walks in and says, there's a phone call for you. And you reply, well, I have, my calendar's pretty busy. Can we just schedule a time for me to talk with you? And the assistant says, no, you need to take this call right away. It's urgent. So you take the phone call and you just found out that your organization, that you're the president and CEO, now is owned by a company out of China. And you quickly realize to yourself, you don't even really know where Shanghai, China is located. And during the conversation, you also learn that this new owner of your organization is going to expect each and every employee to be able to speak Mandarin. Why shift happens and what now? As you can see, the shift is already happening. And what I'm going to do is talk a little bit about some of the drivers of the shifts and then talk about what now. And I'm going to use Pima Community College as the vehicle to really explore how we've been positioning Pima. And I'll touch on some of my experiences in Seattle as well. And by the way, that story is a true story. And one of the key shifts or drivers of change and trends is globalization. And of course, demographic shifts, advances in technology, the birth dearth, and the list goes on and on. These are all, at this point, very well understood, I hope, by many. The question is, what are you doing in response? So I thought I would just share a little bit about what Pima is doing in response. But let me just say a little bit about Pima Community College. We are a proud Hispanic serving institution. We are the #1 graduate at the community college level of Hispanic students in the state of Arizona, as noted by Excellencia in Education. So we're very proud of that fact here in the state. Most of our students, when you take our Hispanic students, our Latinx students, combine that with our African American students, our Native American students, and our Asian American students and Pacific Islander students, we are well over, we are clearly a majority minority institution. We're located just about an hour north of the border. And we have, as you all know, a Research One institution in our backyard, just down the street from one of our prominent campuses, the University of Arizona. We serve in any given year, credit and non-credit, probably around 45,000 individuals. So we are a comprehensive community college with 5 campuses, with many other smaller locations throughout Pima County. And we have a location just right at the border in partnership with the Santa Cruz Provisional Community College District. So I like to pose this question, and as a lawyer, I like to pose a lot of questions. So I may pose a number of questions. You don't need to answer them, but think about them as I asked them. And the first question I often will talk about is higher education the 21st century version of SALT? So why would I use the analogy of SALT? And if you've not read the history of SALT, I highly encourage you to do so. It's a great read. It's a fascinating read. And I think there are many lessons in the history of SALT that we can take away as a community of higher education providers and learners. So, as you know, throughout history, SALT has been an important, vital part of our human existence. And at one point in time, there were lots of salt makers. But as time evolved, the importance of salt never really changed, but how we access salt, the cost of salt has shifted as the technology has shifted, and that's redefining the uses for salt. So today, the major players that we probably all are familiar with are Morton and Cargill. Certainly there are some others, but those are two prominent ones. Well, think about it for a moment. How many colleges and universities do we have? Now, think about the advances in technology. Think about the rise of the mega universities thanks to online, thanks to these incredible innovations that are really offering an opportunity to create greater access, greater affordability if properly leveraged to do so. So that's why I asked the question, and many others, is higher education the 21st century version of SALT? And more importantly, if these advances continue to go on, how many of us will continue to be able to be a salt maker or a provider of higher education in the way we currently do it? Or are we going to have to really think differently and adapt and really consider ourselves more of a specialty salt, especially for those of us in the community college sector? So what's really driving all of this? This level of disruption. And so Pat Gelsinger, the CEO of VMware, wrote a great article just a few years back called The Four Superpowers. And if you haven't read that, I highly recommend you Google the four superpowers. And they are not countries. They are those pieces that you see on the PowerPoint screen. But what are they enabling is really important to understand. They're enabling the Industry 4.0. And that Industry 4.0 pieces are really the true integration of the digital with the physical and the biological in a true integrated way, causing such levels of disruption, but at the same time, levels of opportunity if we seize upon that. And what I've shown here is an example of something that we're doing at Pima in collaboration with Too Simple. And some of you who may or may not be familiar with Too Simple, they are an autonomous vehicle company. Their production facilities are located here in Tucson, Arizona. Their headquarters, their North American headquarters is in San Diego, California, and their CEO and chairman is of Chinese ancestry. And they have they're a startup organization, and they have reached unicorn status. So why do I highlight them? Their technology is giving rise to what they talk about as the virtual railway. So can you imagine for a moment from Long Beach, California, all the way through Arizona, into New Mexico, in through Texas, through the Gulf Coast, all the way through to Jacksonville, Florida. That's I-10. And imagine that I-10 now becomes a virtual railway. So you're taking that width of a railroad, which is just less than 5 feet, and all of a sudden you're expanding it out across 4 lanes, 6 lanes, if not more, and it's all virtual, all being powered by things like the Internet of Things, by the artificial intelligence, this collection of the enormous data through the cloud, and then mobile technology being important aspects of all of this. That's not science fiction. That is happening today. And Too Simple is running trucks today, autonomous trucks, right now from Phoenix to Dallas, Texas. It's just a matter of time before it's from coast to coast, and at some time throughout the United States. But what does this mean as a point of disruption? It means that the single largest employer of males in our country will be displaced and become dislocated workers unless something is done. So we partnered with Too Simple, and we created the first ever autonomous vehicle driver certification. So think about that, and that's why partly why the shifts are happening. But also another piece, and I touched on it earlier, the globalization piece. And can you imagine one day that your college is no longer your college? I know it's hard to believe that, but who would have ever thought that Pima and Maricopa community colleges are no longer state funded? Could you have imagined that two community colleges could ever, or any community college would never be supported by the state again? That has already happened. So what now? And so I want to talk about how we have shifted Pima Community College to really leverage these drivers of change, these trends and signals that have been going on. And it begins with a mindset. And you really have to, I think, reach down deep and say, are you really of a fixed mindset, or are you really of a growth mindset? And sometimes that's hard to self-assess yourself, right? And so do you believe that skills, intellect, and talents are pretty much set and unchangeable? Or do you believe that skills, intellect, talents can be developed through practice and perseverance? Do you have the courage to assume the level of risk to make the changes that are needed to respond to those disruptions, those shifts that are happening? And that's something that that I talk a lot about here at Pima. You know, our mindset is that we're going to grow, we're going to be responsive to the realities of change, and that we're going to show the courage in the face of the resistance you're ultimately going to meet. And so as you look at all the data, I think it's important to then take that and frame it in a way that are actionable. And that's what I refer to as minding the gaps. And so when I was in Seattle as the president of Shoreline Community College, and looking at that time, there was an important report that came out that ACT published, and it was called The Perfect Storm. And when you look at that report, you combine it with Jared Diamond's work collapse and some other things that were going on, it started to become clear that there were at least 5 gaps that I thought that we in higher education, certainly especially in community colleges, needed to be responsive to. The educational achievement gap, the global diversity gap, the technology gap, sustainability, which is, you know, green job opportunities, as well as our financial viability as organizations, and the skills gap. So I'm not saying that's what everyone needs to do, but this is what is guiding the focus of Pima Community College to be in response to those forces of change that are happening as we speak. But what is your individual commitment to a lifetime of learning? And so examples of that are you coding? Have you tried coding? Are you blogging? Are you using social media? Are you podcasting? Are you embracing the digital skills so that you're also modeling for your employees, that you, especially if you're a CEO, that we all have to start to embrace this new digital reality. I had the good fortune, myself and my team, we went up to Apple headquarters. We were invited there, and in less than 30 minutes, I was coding. Can you imagine a lawyer of my age, coding? Because I didn't grow up coding, so it's not as difficult as it might seem, but it was actually very fun to be able to code and see the little robot responding to the messages we were sending through our coding. So it's exciting times. But also, the reason why I shared the lifetime learning piece, I want to share a partnership that we've entered into with Caterpillar. So some of you may be aware, Caterpillar relocated their surface mining headquarters to Tucson, Arizona. Once they got situated on the ground, they came to us and they said, you know, we have this problem that we want to work with you on to solve. And that problem happened to be that they realized that they needed to invest in the upskilling of their engineers. Engineers come out of their various universities, well prepared and grounded in the theory, but many of them don't understand how basic machining, basic welding, or any of those other critical pieces to the work they do as mechanical and electrical engineers and the like. So we created, in partnership, co-developed the curriculum, the Advanced Technology Academy. And an interesting thing that happened once we did that was Raytheon, which is another large employer here in Tucson, Arizona, also came to us and said, can we participate in that Advanced Technology Academy to send our engineers to be upskilled? As well as the University of Arizona came to us and many others to want to be part of this. And fortunately, Caterpillar was open to this not being just about Caterpillar, but really about supporting a whole ecosystem of learners. So we created that exciting Advanced Technology Academy, but it also highlights why partnerships are essential. I think to understand those drivers of change and those trends, it really requires to be in partnership with organizations that are actually driving a lot of those levels of disruption. So I'm so proud to be associated with the National Coalition of Certification Centers, a private-public partnership focused on community colleges and other educational providers, really meeting the needs of business and industry. We have a number of multinational partners, many very known brands. I'll mention a few and then I'll just highlight a couple examples of what we're doing in terms of NC3 and then also outside of the work we're doing with other partners as well. So Snap-on Industrial is one of the partners, Festo's another partner, Greenlee, and the list goes on. But the partner I want to showcase is Train Company. And you're all familiar with Train Company. They make our HVAC systems that go into our businesses as well as into our homes. And they were working on an exciting project called the Virtual Living Lab. We also wanted to take the entire Pima Community College and turn it into a living lab so that our students could use the entire college to learn how to manage energy systems. So we connected with Train Company. Train's a partner of NC3, and we are now in the process of creating this virtual living lab, which essentially means that the students, I'll just simplify it, students are going to be able to take the data from Pima Community College, our facilities, and use that information in their learning. But it will always be lagging. So the students would not be able to come in and disrupt what we're doing on a day-to-day basis at the college. So that's why that virtual component is so important. So we're really excited about this partnership. And as you can imagine, living here in the desert, especially in the summertime, HVAC is all important to what we do. Another important partnership, I think, is going to be essential as we go over time. And we hear from the cyber community that many of our colleges and universities produce cyber trained professionals, except the challenge is they've not actually done it in real life. And also the cyber world changes so quickly. So fortunately, we have a Fortune 100 company who happens to be located in Phoenix, Arizona. They went and approached other colleges and universities about setting up a cyber warfare range. And all they kept hearing was no. So fortunately, I met with the folks at Tech Data. Tech Data is the company, and really started to explore the possibilities of creating a cyber warfare range, live fire, on one of our campuses. Now, at the time, that seemed pretty scary, pretty risky. And I think that's why a lot of folks weren't comfortable doing that, because would you be susceptible, your college, to additional cyber attacks by having a live fire cyber warfare range? So that was probably the single biggest concern. And we were able to create this partnership, create a dedicated private line that comes into the cyber warfare range. So it's not connected to any of our systems at Pima. It's its own dedicated line. We established this range. And so we have these wonderful cyber patriots in our community who come in and volunteer their time at the range. And we have folks who drive in from Phoenix who will come volunteer their time at the range. And what it allows us to do is to then align our cyber security program to give our students an opportunity to be mentored and coached by these professionals, and also be guided by these professionals in real time by going into the dark net. So our students are getting real-time live experience fighting as a cyber patriot. So we're really excited by that. But it took at the time, a lot of risk and a lot of courage to make that happen at the college. So can you imagine for a moment, if we could create a platform where the learner, the provider, in this case community colleges, and the employer could all come together in a common platform, and that the learner could do some career navigation pieces, that the learner could see that if I took certain courses or certain programs, which employers were hiring people who received those credentials, and that the employer could come into that platform and see which educational providers are willing to provide those certifications. And in some cases, taking the certification from the employer themselves, like Google, or co-develop something like we did with Too Simple, or partner with and leverage the FAA regulations to allow for, in this case, veterans coming out of the military to take short courses with us and then go sit for the FAA licensure to work on commercial aircraft. So this is not something that is conceptual. We, in partnership with 6 other community colleges and social tech, have created what is called now the Unmuddle Course to Jobs Marketplace. This is the community college's response to Coursera, to Udacity, and so on, and to Ed2Go and all of those, because we have the ability to create original content in collaboration with employers, linking back to the learners in this digital platform. And it's so exciting. We went live with this last month. We have already added well over 100 courses into the platform. We're looking to do a lot more. Those of you, if you're interested, please feel free to reach out. We'd love to have a conversation with you. But here's the unique thing about this too, that the edXs and the Coursera's don't have. They don't have an actual airplane. They don't have an actual cyber warfare range. They don't have an actual autonomous truck. So we're able to take those learners who are learning in this platform and say, go to your local community college who are part of our partnership network, and you can go and actually touch the very thing you just learned about. So I think that gives us a unique, distinct advantage, specialty salt, as we go forward. Now, this piece, we started this journey over a little over a year. Parminder Jasso, Jamae was part of this, Merrill Lee, and so many other people. Julian Assad is now part of this, and others. And we started with a concept. And that concept, in less than a year, we now have this platform. This is a Rosetta Stone. This is that transcription that I think is needed more now than ever. It is short term, it's non-credit, and in many cases low cost, but not in all cases. And another important feature here is we are very clear that if you take these courses and complete them, that the colleges will translate that into actual credit towards a degree of certificate if that's what you so choose. But if you choose not to do that, you take these set of courses, these employers are already employing people with this background. So this is what's so special that's going on as we speak. And so what all of this has done is led at least Pima Community College to be highly engaged in a lot of activities happening all over the country. We're so proud to be in partnership with the National Governors Association, with the American Association of Community Colleges, to be part of the 20 plus states that are working on the Reskilling and Recovery Network to help revitalize our respective economies and our respective communities. We were recently chosen as one of 6 community colleges across the country to develop and pilot micro pathways through the Community College Growth Engine Fund in partnership with the Ed Design Lab. We are collaborating with Amazon Web Services. From our entire community college system in the state of Arizona is going to be delivering on AWS cloud certifications. And just recently, as part of Bank of America's $25 million jobs initiative, which is part of a larger $1 billion revitalization program, we are proud to say at Pima, we are one of the recipients of that generous gift. So exciting things happening when we pay attention to the trends. We start to focus on those signals that they're sending us, and we start to create programming in response to that. And so I'm just proud to say that we recognize at Pima, we are really a specialty salt. And as a specialty salt, we have a unique place in the ecosystem. And I believe each and every one of our community colleges especially occupy that unique position that no other entity can fulfill in our respective communities. So with that, be glad to take questions.
That's awesome. What kind of salt was that you put up? Rock salt?
I think it was rock salt.
It was pretty. Okay. We have one question here in the Q&A. You can either chat it or put in the Q&A. Ann Lopez said she's with Upskill Enterprise and they're working to identify skill gaps, upskilling and reskilling, similar to what you're talking about with Bank of America, et cetera. So how would you work with companies in the region, and how are you working with companies to look at the skill gaps that are unique and set aside the red tape that creates solutions?
I mean, that's a great question.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the Too Simple example really illustrates and goes to the point that you're making. And so when Too Simple sat down with us and said, you know, can we create this new program? And it became quickly clear to us that the silos of our organization, so we had IT over here, we have business services over there, we have applied technology over there, spanning these different silos. And when I say silos, you have your deans, they have their portfolios, and then they have their faculty. But what Too Simple wanted to create was something that had to cross all of those. So we had to bring all these folks together, start to break down those silos and say, how do we create a more integrated program that starts to upskill and reskill the truck driver to understand logistics and trade, understand how to actually service a vehicle, understand the electrical components, the computer systems that are now going to be on board these trucking systems. And so it required courage on the administration's part to start to push to break down those barriers. Then we had to sit down with Too Simple and be willing to collaborate with their engineers. And remember, the engineers may not be schooled in creating curriculum. Mm-hmm. So we had to help work through the translation that needed to happen to create the curriculum. So that took some time to work through that piece as we were going forward. But interesting enough, then it goes even further. So now they recognize, okay, the truck driver doesn't need to have a bachelor's degree, but yet for other jobs they were hiring, they were still requiring a bachelor's degree. So we actually sat down with them, went through each of their competencies for certain jobs that they had, and we helped them translate that to what are your actual skill needs. And then once we were able to break it down to that level and say, well, is it really that you need a bachelor's degree to do that? And what it clearly shows that the bachelor's degree, as we all know, was a proxy for a lot of the skills that employers are looking for, because it was really hard to do this granular analysis. Now, I'm not the expert in this, and I know we had Dr. John Boudreau in an earlier presentation. He shared what his work, and his work really starts to break this down in a way that can be translatable. So I think, skilling our folks to be able to do that level of translation for employees. The hard part is you got to go from one employer to the next. We have to help educate the HR departments as much as the HR departments educate us. So it's this, again, this reciprocal process. Yeah. But tearing down the barriers are so essential to the work that you're seeing us do.
And here's a question. What do you, Lee, see as the biggest risk or opportunity, maybe and or, for Pima and all community colleges over the next year or two? This is probably post-COVID.
So thank you for bringing that up. So let me preface it with this and then answer the question. Everything I shared with you, almost everything I shared with you, was happening pre-COVID.
Okay.
And that's important because we were already positioning the college to move into a virtual environment. And we had created Pima Online as an example, created a lot of quality around Pima Online. We had 30% of everything we were doing was already in Pima Online before COVID hit. So that meant we had already built the infrastructure. Every course had a course shell on D2L. We were already training our faculty. We were already moving in the direction of requiring every faculty member to be able to teach online. Now, we hadn't gotten there yet, but we were already moving in this direction, and then COVID hit. Why I say this is the decisions that you made pre-COVID around the things I just mentioned made a difference for Pima. So we made the transition a little smoother. I'm not saying it was smooth, made it smoother. We were also in a financially healthy position going into COVID. So I have not to date had to lay off a single employee.
Wow.
Because I had already been anticipating the need to reallocate and strategically invest in new areas. So we started to, as people left the organization, we would sit on positions. We were now starting to reallocate. So because of that strategy, and then COVID hit, I had resources to where I could draw upon beyond my reserves to cushion us through this period of time. Also, I really believe this comes back to mindset and heart set, that I did not want us contributing to the unemployment and the devastation in the economy when we don't have to. So I made a commitment to our employees that I'm not going to lay anybody off. And as we went through the first phase of COVID, then once we got to the new fiscal year in July 1, I made the similar commitment, provided that the employees understood that as we move through this current year, that they have to be willing to upskill and reskill, because we're moving in this new direction. If you're not willing to do your part, then unfortunately, when we come out of this, the world's going to be different at Pima. So COVID is just an accelerant. That's not just, but it is an accelerant to what was already happening before COVID. So we could not have anticipated this black swan event, but we could anticipate if we were embracing the things you heard me talk about earlier, the partnerships, addressing the digital skills, working closely with leading employers and the like, that it positioned us nicely, and making tough choices leading up to it, you know, the courage, the risk taking, et
You
cetera.
did. I mean, didn't you have 3 campuses and you went down to 1?
No, no. So I had 6 campuses,
6.
and so we closed one and sold it.
Got it.
Uh, so that's that courage to
Mhm.
make hard decisions, and then reallocate things in a way that continue to be responsive to the community. And part of why we did that was because Pima Online was growing. It is our fastest growing part of the college.
Wow.
And it's still growing today, even though our enrollments are falling.
Hmm. John Boudreau, Dr. Boudreau is on. Thanks for the shout out, Lee. Very interesting discussion. I wonder if there's a place for Pima and others, and Metal, etc., to actually develop lessons for HR and other leaders about how to deconstruct jobs and translate into curricula.
John, we would love to sit down and talk to you about developing a curriculum to go into an unmuddled platform to do exactly what you're talking about. And so I'd love to arrange that conversation, bring Parminder into Jasso into the conversation, Julian Assad and others, and we can start to move in that direction. So that's exciting. I'm glad you're willing to explore that with us.
That's awesome. This came from my friend in New Mexico, Jamie Wagner, just that she loves the micro credentials and micro pathways to learning. So that's the Bank of America stuff that you were referred to, right? What is a goal of that to work in a specific industry for these micro pathways, or what is that goal?
So let me separate 2 things out. So there's the Growth Engine Fund, which is really focused on the micro pathways.
Got it.
And then Bank of America is also focused on a similar thing, and both of them are focused on the equity, addressing equity, especially in the case of Tucson, Arizona, addressing the fact that almost half of our workforce is low wage earners.
Mm-hmm.
And then you take the majority of those low wage earners are Latinx. And so then you overlay that equity piece into the equation. And so then how can we rapidly reskill folks into better opportunities? And so that's where the micro pathways comes in. And you look at, someone may only need 1 or 2 additional coursework, and then you can move into higher level opportunities. Some people may need a little bit more time. Maybe it's 3 to 6 months or longer. And then obviously there are some people you're going to need to move through a system, a year or 2 or longer. So the micro pathway is just another option that allows for that to happen. Now, what we did, it's contextualized to your community. So what we decided was IT is one of the areas, healthcare, advanced manufacturing, logistics, and trade are the areas we're going to concentrate on, because those are where some of the better jobs are in this community. Mm-hmm. We have a huge need for nurses here, and that's probably true in most of our communities. So can we upskill or reskill individuals quickly into that opportunity? As an example, we need machinists, we need welders, and so can we need more cyber professionals. So can we do some of that work? And that's where we're focused. That can be different in other communities across the country.
That's awesome. Does anybody have any other questions? Lee, I'm going to put something up on my screen real quick. Does anybody else have questions for Lee about anything else?
So I see a question about fast tracking K-12 teachers. So we have a post-bac program, and it's fully online. And what it does is it's designed in a way where it's an earn to learn model. So you could go and get, at least in the state of Arizona, a temporary exemption to teach if you're in this program that we have. And then so we scale you over time, and you can complete this in, I believe, well, I don't want to misquote, I'll say in less than 2 years fully online. And then the other thing that's happened is the state of Arizona has created a teachers academy. And what that means is they are providing additional funding for folks to do the reskilling or upskilling to be a teacher. So we've created that online piece that allows for rapid acceleration, creating the exceptions so you can go in the classroom now, but be in this learning process. So that's the model. We'll certainly be glad to share more and get you connected to people on the ground if you'd like to learn the details and specifics about that.
Can you guys see my screen when shift happens or not? Can you see that, Lee?
Mm-hmm.
You do? Okay.
I see it.
Because I just was going to say, if anybody wants to read the paper that Dr. Merritt Mayo authored and co-authored with me, is Shift Happens at Pima. Here's the website, and you can, it's on the Innovate Educate website if you are interested in looking at it and downloading. One last question is about veterans completing their FAA. Are there other pathways that you've seen work well to help veterans transition to a new career? And what supports have you seen that are important?
Thank you for the question, Scott. So, you know, these programs all vary in terms of their length. So what we did, another program that we have, automated industrial technology. And what that is formerly known as Megatronics. So we sat down with Raytheon and Lucid Automotive, and that's that electric vehicle company that's in Central Arizona, and Boeing, working with Maricopa and CAC, those are the other two community college districts, and we created this new curriculum called AIT. And it's broken out into 2 key semester pieces. And so a veteran could come through and just be done in that first semester and get their AIT cert and go directly into the workplace if they choose. So you're talking less than 6 months. We can get you out there. It's not as fast as the FAA piece, but it's certainly pretty fast. And what we're finding is, you know, the people are moving into, you know, jobs that are paying $18 or more an hour by having this ability to understand the interrelationships of the electrical, mechanical, and the computer science pieces, and integrated with the robotics and the like. So we're really excited about that. But the other thing we've done with this is we have now what we've called iBested it. So if you're not familiar with iBest, it was first you know, trademarked and developed out of the state of Washington, where, you know, I happen to be president at Shoreline. And once I came here, Pima also leveraged iBest. So we created these integrated basic education skills training on-ramps to these career technical education programs. So I can do it together. So I'm not stuck in Dev Ed first before I can get into my program of study. I'm doing it at the same time. Then we've now layered in the adult ed piece into that. So if I don't have my GED or high school equivalency, I can still get into this iBest AIT program. And thanks to ATB ability to benefit being now we're able to offer it again. We now have this full suite of complement of the financial, the student support systems, wrapping around that student in the program of study. And we're seeing phenomenal results from that.
That's awesome. Okay, well, I think this was amazing. I always learn from you, Lee, always. So thank you. Any closing words?
This takes, I mean, it's overused, right? It does take a family to do what I described. It's not because of me, the chancellor. I'm just one piece of it. And it really took everyone buying into a vision, everyone willing to work together, understanding the needs of the community, and really doing the right thing. I'm not saying everybody as everybody literally, but enough folks coming together to do the right thing. And this is what can happen when you do that. And so I'm just so proud of the folks at Pima, and so proud of our community colleges across the country for what we do. And we look forward to, we know partnerships, and partnerships are the key. As our mayor likes to say, the first Latina mayor of a of a major city. She says, "Somos uno." Uh, we are all one.
Awesome.
And so I think that's what I leave with all of you. We're all one. Somos uno.
Awesome.
Thank
Speaking of partnership, we're super excited tomorrow to hear from Marina Gorbis with the Institute for the Future. She is, I think she's got a whole new topic to talk about. So I encourage everybody to listen and participate if they can. And then next Friday, we have Dr. Angela Jackson from New Profit, who's running the X Prize and the MIT Solve, etc. And that rounds out our year. And then the hubs are really, really getting busy working together, the 11 hubs of the Closer community. And we encourage you all to share and continue to build the knowledge across the community during this most interesting time in the history of our country. So thank you, as always, Lee Lambert, for your commitment to the greater cause of the future of work and learning, and to thanks everyone for being here with us.
Well, thanks for having me. Happy holidays, everyone.
You too. Thank you.
Bye-bye.